say Sotapanna, how do we know that a person has achieved that level? Other than negative sort of answer, negative action, then only we know he is not, or we don't know he is.
Okay. The Buddha said that if a person has become a Sotapanna, he has unshakable faith in the Buddha, in the Dhamma, in the Sangha, and he has Aryan Sila. Okay. Many years ago in Penang, we had one lady, people thought that she was an Anagami. But after many years of meditation, she just gave up Buddhism and changed her religion. It shows that even stream entry she had not attained. So this is the first thing mentioned in the suttas. Second thing mentioned in the suttas is that if a person is a Sotapanna, he has the vision of the Dhamma. He has seen the Dhamma. If a person has seen the Dhamma, then he sees no security in this world. No security in this world. Even in the heavens also no security. So then he will understand that the most precious thing in the world is the Dhamma. And the most meaningful thing to do as a human being is to practice the Dhamma. In which case he will turn away from worldly things. It's not like some Mahayana books say that person is a great bodhisattva, but he goes to the karaoke and he goes to the pub and all that, living like a lay person, and yet he's a great bodhisattva. Not like that. Once he has become an Arya, he will turn away from. If previously he liked to go to the races, go and enjoy worldly things. After he becomes an Arya, his direction is on the spiritual path. And then he will, because he doesn't join his friends in all this worldly entertainment, his friends will think it's sort of gone funny. And that's the price you have to pay. People think you're a bit funny. Okay, another thing mentioned in the suttas, once a person has become Sotapanna, it is mentioned that he becomes independent of others in the Buddha's dispensation, in the Buddha's teachings. That's a very important statement. He becomes independent of others in the Buddha's teachings. In other words, he does not look for a teacher. Nowadays, you find a lot of people chasing after Ho Liao Su all over the world. You don't have to. The Buddha says, after he has passed into Nibbana, take the Dhamma Vinaya as your teacher. And the Dhamma is defined as the suttas in the Nikayas. So if you only take the trouble, if you only take the trouble to really study the suttas, you will see the Dhamma, the vision of the Dhamma. In which case, you won't chase after teachers anymore. You will know by yourself the way out of samsara. You will practice according to all the Buddha's instructions are in the suttas. In fact, the Buddha's instructions in the suttas are so clear and so practical. You cannot find a better teacher than that. In fact, nowadays there are many teachers who teach wrongly, probably because they are not so familiar with the suttas. And there's a lot of wrong teachings. I was told recently they had this Vachana conference. Bhante Ji, Bhante Punaratana, he says there's a lot of wrong teachings being taught in Sunday school nowadays.
Bhante, let's say for a lay person, how do you consider him is in the stream, first part, first part, is in the first part. How do you consider him? Does it mean that he read the Nikaya or,
Oh yes, a person who attains stream entry is a person who has attained right view. Right view. Once you attain right view, you are an Arya, one of the 8 Aryas. And the way to attain right view is mentioned in the suttas, in the Majjhima Nikaya 43. The Buddha said there are only 2 conditions to attain right view. And that is listening, the exact words used by the Buddha is another's utterance. It's very. That's why people don't study the suttas. You don't catch the significance. Another's utterance. That means you have to hear the Dhamma from outside to attain right view. You cannot get right view by practicing yourself. It's impossible. But nowadays, a lot of meditation teachers tell you that the way to attain Sotapanna is by meditation. It's not by meditation. The Buddha says that another's utterance. You have to hear the Dhamma from somebody else. For example, from the Nikayas. You study the Nikayas. That is the first condition. The second condition is Yoniso Manasikara. Simply translated, it is proper attention, thorough attention. So you pay thorough attention when you study the Nikayas or when you listen to the Dhamma talk. Then you can get right view. And once you get right view, you are an Arya. Another thing I like to mention here, a lot of people don't realize, is there's one sutta called the Sarakani Sutta. In this sutta, this Sakya by the name of Sarakani, he passed away. And after he passed away, people asked the Buddha where he was reborn. And the Buddha said, Sarakani has become a Sotapanna. So he has gone for a good rebirth. But because Sotapanna, this Sarakani was a drinker, must have drank a lot. A lot of people disbelieved the Buddha. They were very angry. They say, how can this drinker, Sarakani, be a Sotapanna? If he can be a Sotapanna, everybody can be a Sotapanna. Because they considered him broken to precept. Then the word came back to the Buddha, and then what the Buddha said? He said, why should not Sarakani become a Sotapanna? Buddha said the Sarakani had followed the Dhamma for a long time, had learned the Dhamma for a long time. And then the Buddha said what, very surprisingly, the Buddha said, look at these trees. These trees, they could, if they can understand what I say, even the trees can become Sotapanna. What is the significance here? The Buddha said, if the trees can understand what I say, the Buddha didn't say, if these trees can meditate, they become a Sotapanna. The Buddha said, if these trees can understand what I say, so the word, the word to catch here can understand what I say. So it shows the way to Sotapanna is listening to the Buddha's words, not meditation. If it is meditation, the Buddha would have said so, right? But the Buddha said, if you can understand what I say.
Does it mean that we don't need to contemplate?
When you listen, of course, being an intelligent person, you naturally contemplate, but you're so fast that you can do it so fast. Our mind is depending on how clear your mind is. If only we take the trouble to study the suttas again and again. Of course, the first time you study, you might find it hard to understand. Initially, when I studied the suttas, I find many things I could not understand. I kept studying it again and again and again and again, and so many times, and then slowly things become clearer and clearer. It's just like a jigsaw puzzle. You put a few pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and you cannot see the overall picture. Keep adding, and very soon you can see the overall picture. That's why the Buddha calls his disciples sabhakas, hearers, listeners. He didn't call them meditators or yogis. He called them hearers. And also in the suttas, it is mentioned, the Buddha said, if you want to practice the Noble Eightfold Path, you must start with right view. You not start with meditation, start with right view. And right view will bring you to right thoughts, and right thoughts will bring you to right speech, etc.